You probably recognize the names on Canada's biggest banks and universities, but you might not know the stories of the families who were instrumental in funding them. These aren't just tales of wealth, they're sagas of survival, ambition, and influence that helped shape a nation. Behind Canada's peaceful image lies a story of immense power, forged in the fires of persecution and honed by relentless ambition. These are the quiet architects of the Canadian economy, dynasties whose empires in real estate, liquor, and finance became the bedrock of modern Canada. Today, we're counting down 10 of the most influential Jewish family businesses in Canadian history and revealing the untold stories of how they turned adversity into power. This isn't just a list of the richest, it's a chronicle of legacy, a mix of today's dominant billionaires and the historical dynasties whose impact is still felt even if their names no longer top the wealth rankings. Our countdown begins not with a Bay Street titan, but with a name that represents the quintessential immigrant success story built one handshake at a time. Number 10, the Tepperman family. In 1925, long before big box stores and online shopping, the story goes that a young immigrant named Nate Tepperman arrived in Windsor, Ontario. He didn't have a storefront or warehouse. He had a product and a belief in people. He began selling home goods door to door, but what he was truly offering was revolutionary for its time: trust. Nate extended credit to working-class families, many of them newcomers themselves, allowing them to furnish their homes with dignity through manageable installment payments. This wasn't just a business model, it was a community-building exercise. While other businesses demanded cash up front, Tepperman's built its foundation on relationships. This approach allowed the company to not just survive the Great Depression, but to thrive. From those humble beginnings, Tepperman's grew into a beloved southwestern Ontario institution. The first brick-and-mortar store opened, followed by expansions into cities like London and Chatham. The business passed from Nate to his son Bill, and then to the third generation, his grandsons Andrew and Noah Tepperman, who lead the company today. The Teppermans are on this list not because they command a multi-billion-dollar global empire, but because they represent a century of sustained success. They are a historically significant family business, a testament to the idea that great influence can be built not just through massive scale, but through deep roots and unwavering service to a community over generations. From the heart of Ontario's retail landscape, we now shift to the very backbone of its industrial might: steel. The story of the Zeckelman family is forged in steel. It begins with Harry Zeckelman, who founded Atlas Tube in 1985. He saw an opportunity in the structural steel tubing market and built a company that quickly gained a reputation for quality. But the true forging of the Zeckelman empire came after Harry's passing in 1986, when his sons, Barry, Clayton, and Alan, took the helm at ages 19 and up. Instead of simply managing their inheritance, the brothers embarked on a campaign of aggressive expansion. They transformed their father's company into a continental powerhouse. A major turning point came with the acquisitions of American competitors Wheatland Tube and Sharon Tube. This move vaulted the family business, now known as Zeckelman Industries, into the upper echelon of North American manufacturing. Today, under the leadership of Executive Chairman and CEO Barry Zeckelman, the company is recognized as one of North America's largest independent manufacturers of steel pipe and tube. Its products form the skeletons of skyscrapers and the foundations of countless infrastructure projects. Barry Zeckelman's personal fortune is estimated by Forbes to be around $3.4 billion US, a figure that speaks to the immense scale of the operation he commands. The Zeckelman story is a powerful example of a second generation not just preserving, but dramatically multiplying a family legacy. From the visible strength of steel, we turn to the often invisible, but no less powerful, world of high-stakes real estate. Number 8, the Singer family, Larco Group. Not all great fortunes are built in the public eye. Some of the most significant empires are assembled quietly, property by property. This is the world of the Singer family and their relatives, the Lalji clan, who controlled the famously private real estate conglomerate known as the Larco Group. With an estimated net worth in the billions, the family is a formidable, if understated, force in Canadian real estate. Their strategy isn't about flashy headline-grabbing towers. Instead, they focused on acquiring a portfolio of high-value properties in key urban centers. Their holdings include major commercial real estate, luxury hotels, and notably, a vast portfolio of properties in Ottawa leased to the federal government. This makes them, in a very real sense, the landlord to the Canadian government itself. Their influence comes from the sheer scale and strategic importance of the assets they control. By owning the buildings that house corporate headquarters and government offices, they are an integral part of the economic fabric of Canada's largest cities. The Larco Group exemplifies a different kind of power, one that is patient, private, and built on the enduring value of location, proving that the quietest rooms often hold the most power. Now we move from families who built empires to those whose ambitions were so vast, they didn't just participate in cities, they fundamentally reshaped them.
Number 7. The Ghermezian family. In the mid-20th century, the Ghermezian family came to North America from Iran, eventually settling in Edmonton, Alberta. They began their new life in a traditional business, importing and selling rugs. But the four brothers, Nader, Eskandar, Raphael, and Bauman, had a vision that stretched far beyond carpets. They looked at the vast, open spaces of their new home and didn't just see land, they saw a canvas. Their company, 555 Group, would become synonymous with a concept that revolutionized retail and entertainment: the Mega Mall. Their magnum opus was the West Edmonton Mall. Opened in phases between 1981 and 1999, it was a project of unprecedented scale. The Ghermezians weren't just building a shopping center, they were building a self-contained universe, blending hundreds of stores with attractions that defied imagination. An indoor amusement park, a sprawling indoor water park, an NHL-sized ice rink, and even a submarine ride in an indoor lake. At the time, many of these attractions were the largest of their kind in the world, turning a mall in northern Canada into a global tourist destination. The success of West Edmonton Mall became the blueprint for their next ventures, the Mall of America in Minnesota, and more recently, the American Dream Mall in New Jersey. The Ghermezian family's multi-billion-dollar fortune was built on a simple but radical idea that a mall could be more than a place to shop. It could be a place to live, play, and dream. From a family that reshaped the consumer landscape, we turn to a man who reshaped a city's skyline and its spirit. Number 6. The Katz family. The story of Darrell Katz is a tale of two empires, one built on medicine, the other on ice. His journey began not in real estate, but in the familiar corner pharmacy. Starting in 1991, Katz began acquiring the Canadian rights to the Medicine Shop franchise. With a keen eye for opportunity, he grew his holdings, eventually creating the Katz Group, which operated the widespread Rexall Pharmacy chain. But for Katz, this was just the first act. A proud Edmontonian, he embarked on a quest that would make him a hometown hero. In 2008, he purchased the Edmonton Oilers, one of the NHL's most storied franchises. For Katz, this wasn't just a trophy asset, it was the key to a much larger vision. He leveraged ownership of the team to propose a project that would transform the heart of the city. The result was the Ice District, a sprawling $2.5 billion sports and entertainment development in downtown Edmonton. Anchored by the state-of-the-art Rogers Place Arena, the project includes a luxury hotel, a casino, office and residential towers, and a vibrant public plaza. It's one of the most ambitious urban revitalization projects in Canadian history. Darrell Katz used his fortune, with recent estimates of his net worth around 5.8 billion Canadian dollars, to make a direct and lasting physical impact on his city, forever linking his family's name to the skyline of Edmonton. From the tangible world of steel and concrete, we now venture into the digital frontier, where a massive fortune was built on bits, bytes, and a deck of cards. Number 5. The Sheinberg family. In the early 2000s, the internet was still a Wild West. It was in this environment that an Israeli-Canadian father and son duo, Isai and Mark Sheinberg, placed a massive bet. In 2001, they launched a website called PokerStars. It was a simple concept with flawless execution. An online platform where people could play poker for real money. The timing was perfect. The online poker boom was just beginning, and PokerStars, with its robust software, quickly rose to the top. By 2010, Forbes estimated the private company was generating around $1.4 billion in revenue and $500 million in profit annually, making it the largest online poker site in the world. But their dominance was tested on April 15, 2011, a day known in the poker world as Black Friday. The U.S. Department of Justice unsealed indictments against major online poker companies, effectively shutting them out of their largest market. While competitors crumbled, the Scheinbergs made a series of brilliant moves. They ensured their players outside the U.S. were paid, cementing their trustworthiness. Then, they orchestrated a deal to acquire their fallen rival, Full Tilt Poker, and settled a civil case with the U.S. government without admitting wrongdoing. This left them as the undisputed king of online poker. In 2014, the Scheinbergs cashed in, selling the company to Canada's Amaya Gaming for a staggering $4.9 billion. Mark Scheinberg, who owns 75% of the business, walked away with a massive personal fortune. Now operating through his luxury hospitality investment firm, Mohari, his net worth is estimated by Forbes at $5.6 billion as of 2024. If you're finding this interesting, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps us create more content just like this, and you'll be the first to know when we release our next deep dive into the stories behind the world's great fortunes. Now, let's get to our top 4. The philanthropic powerhouses. We now enter the realm of families whose legacies are measured not just by their balance sheets, but by the sheer scale of their generosity.
Number 4. The Azrieli family. The story of David Azrieli is a profound testament to resilience. A Polish-born teenager when the Holocaust descended, he survived, escaped the Nazis, and fought in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. When he finally arrived in Montreal in 1954, he came with little more than an architectural education and an unbreakable will to build. He started small, designing duplexes, but his ambitions were always grander. He scaled up to high-rises and then turned his attention to a new concept, the enclosed shopping mall. He built a real estate empire in Canada, but his gaze soon turned back to Israel, a country ripe for the kind of commercial development he had mastered. In the mid-1980s, he opened the Ayalon Mall, and later, his crowning achievement, the Azrieli Center in Tel Aviv, an iconic three-tower complex that reshaped the city's skyline. When he passed away in 2014, he left behind the Azrieli Group, now described as Israel's largest real estate company, and a vast fortune. His 3 daughters, Naomi, Dana, and Sharon, now hold major stakes and oversee the family's second and perhaps greater empire, the Azrieli Foundation. With assets over $2.4 billion, the Azrieli Foundation is one of Canada's largest philanthropic organizations, second only to the MasterCard Foundation. It's a powerhouse of giving, funding initiatives in science, education, architecture, and crucially, Holocaust commemoration. The Azrieli family's journey came full circle. From the depths of persecution, they built an empire and are now using it to ensure the past is never forgotten. From a legacy of building and giving, we turn to a family whose name is a saga of ambition, faith, disaster, and unbelievable redemption. Number 3. The Reichmann family. In the annals of Canadian business, few stories are as dramatic as the Reichmanns. The family fled persecution from Austria and Hungary, finding refuge during the war in Tangier, Morocco. It was there the deeply Orthodox Jewish family rebuilt their lives before brothers Paul, Albert, and Rolf made their way to Canada in the 1950s. They started a small tile business, Olympia Tile, which was a success. But their ambitions lay in erecting buildings, not just finishing them. They founded Olympia & York, a real estate company that would, for a time, become the largest in the world. They built First Canadian Place, the nation's tallest skyscraper, and developed New York's massive World Financial Center. The Reichmanns were known for their faith, famously halting all work on their global construction sites for the Sabbath. By the early 1980s, they were among the wealthiest families in the world. Then came their most ambitious project, Canary Wharf,
a plan to transform London's derelict docklands into a second financial center. The vision was brilliant, but the timing was disastrous. A global real estate crash in the early 1990s brought the project and their empire to its knees. In 1992, Olympia in York filed for bankruptcy, crushed by a mountain of debt estimated as high as $20 billion. It was one of the largest corporate collapses in history. But the Reichmann story doesn't end there. In an astonishing third act, Paul Reichmann assembled new investors and, against all odds, regained control of the Canary Wharf project he had been forced to surrender, seeing it through to completion. The Reichmann story is a powerful lesson in risk and resilience. They reached the highest peaks of global finance, suffered a catastrophic fall, and found a way to rise again. From one dynasty that defined the late 20th century, we now turn to the family whose name is synonymous with Canadian corporate power.
Number 2. The Bronfman family. The story of the Bronfman family is, in many ways, the story of 20th century Canadian capitalism. The saga begins with Samuel Bronfman, an immigrant who started with a small hotel business on the prairies. Sam had a shrewd mind and an uncanny sense for opportunity. That opportunity arrived with Prohibition. While the United States went dry, Canada's liquor laws were a patchwork that allowed for distilling and export. Samuel Bronfman positioned his business brilliantly, legally selling vast quantities of whiskey to exporters who would then smuggle the goods south. In 1928, he purchased Joseph E. Segrin & Sons. While others focused on short-term profits, Bronfman stockpiled enormous reserves of high-quality, aged whiskey. When Prohibition was finally repealed in 1933, Seagram was ready. While competitors sold harsh, young spirits, Bronfman flooded the market with smooth, aged whiskeys, capturing the premium market. The Seagram Company, with iconic brands like Crown Royal and VO, became the largest spirits company in the world. This liquor empire became the foundation of the Bronfman family's immense wealth, built on foresight, ambition, and a unique moment in history. But this was only the beginning. At the pinnacle of our list is not a separate family, but the second, even more powerful chapter of the dynasty we've just introduced. A chapter that saw this family's influence grow so vast it touched nearly every corner of the Canadian economy. Number 1. The Bronfman family. The fortune Samuel Bronfman built with Seagram became the launchpad for an even grander ambition. Under his nephews, Edward and Peter Bronfman, a separate branch of the family created a corporate entity that would become a legend in Canadian finance, Edper Investments. Through a complex structure of holding companies, including the well-known Broscan, the Bronfmans assembled a sprawling conglomerate. At its peak in the late 1980s and early 1990s, the Edper Broscan empire held significant stakes in a staggering array of Canada's most important companies. Their interests spanned real estate, forestry, mining, and finance. To do business in Canada during this era often meant, in one way or another, doing business with the Bronfmans. They weren't just participating in the Canadian economy, they were one of its primary gravitational forces. But, like all great sagas, the Bronfman story has a final dramatic act. The third generation, led by Samuel's grandson Edgar Bronfman Jr., took the helm of the Seagram Empire. Convinced the future lay in entertainment, he orchestrated a monumental pivot, acquiring media conglomerate MCA, which included Universal Studios. Then, in 2000, came the deal that would end the dynasty. Edgar Jr. agreed to an all-stock sale of the Seagram Empire to the French media company Vivendi for about $34 billion. The deal was a disaster. The Vivendi stock price collapsed shortly after, wiping out the majority of the family's core fortune that had been built over nearly a century. Yet the Bronfman legacy endures. The family's philanthropic contributions are legendary, and Edgar Bronfman Sr. became a towering figure in global Jewish affairs. The name Bronfman remains synonymous with a level of power and influence rarely seen in Canadian history. A story of incredible ascent, unparalleled dominance, and a cautionary tale of how even the greatest empires can fall. From Nate Tepperman's installment plan in Windsor to the global reach of the Bronfman dynasty, the stories of these 10 families are more than just chronicles of wealth. They are chapters in the story of Canada itself. Narratives of resilience, of families fleeing persecution, arriving with little and building empires through sheer force of will.
The common thread is a dual legacy. They were builders of businesses, creating companies that employed thousands and shaped the national economy. But they were also builders of community. Their philanthropic endeavors, often driven by a deep connection to their heritage and the memory of hardship, have funded countless hospitals, universities, arts centers, and social programs. Their impact is measured not just in their net worth, but in the enduring institutions they helped create. Whether through the steel beams of a Zeckelman-built skyscraper, the revitalized downtown of Katz's Edmonton, a foundation established by Azrieli, or the memory of the immense power once wielded by the Reichmans and Bronfens, their influence continues to resonate. They are a powerful reminder that behind the quiet facade of Canadian life lie epic stories of struggle, triumph, and the enduring quest to build something that lasts.